Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have John Cornett standing by in the wings for more great music. Howdy, John.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Casper Leach is directly to my left, ready to joint host the show. We have lots of news tonight and some film clips, so stay tuned as we bring on our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, our first hip news story tonight is out of Olympia, Washington. Washington State House and Senate lawmakers have overwhelmingly approved legislation, House Bill 2304, to allow for retail sale of high THC marijuana concentrates, such as extracts, waxes, and oils. The bill now awaits action from Washington Democratic Governor Jay Inslee. As passed, the measure amends Washington state law to allow for licensed cannabis retailers to produce and sell cannabis concentrates, which are defined as extract products possessing a THC concentration of greater than 60%. Under the state's 2012 I-502 initiative, retailers are permitted to sell to those over the age of 21 up to 1 ounce of marijuana and or 16 ounces of marijuana-infused products in solid form and or up to 72 ounces of marijuana-infused products in liquid form. Washington's House Bill 2304 allows retailers to additionally sell up to 7 grams of marijuana concentrates to a customer at one time. Earlier this month, Washington state regulators began issuing retail licenses to individuals seeking to commercially produce and sell cannabis. Retail marijuana operations are anticipated to be up and running in the state by this summer. Separate legislation that sought to impose regulations on Washington's existing medical marijuana program and would have restricted the amount of cannabis patients may legally possess and cultivate died last week upon the Washington legislature's Senate or session adjournment. Out of Tel Aviv, Israel, inhaling whole plant cannabis provides symptomatic relief in patients with Parkinson's disease, according to observational trial data published in the March-April edition of the journal Clinical Neuropharmacology. Parkinson's is a progressive disorder of the central nervous system that results in tremor, slow movement, and muscle rigidity. Investigators at Tel Aviv University Department of Neurology evaluated Parkinson's disease symptoms in 22 patients at baseline and 30 minutes after inhaling cannabis. The researchers reported that inhaled cannabis was associated with significant improvement after treatment in tremor, rigidity, and slowness of movement. There is also significant improvement of sleep and pain scores. No significant adverse effects of the drug were observed. They concluded, quote, "This observational study is the first to report an amelioration of both motor and non-motor symptoms in patients with Parkinson's disease treated with cannabis. The study opens new venues for treatment strategies in Parkinson's, especially in patients refractory to current medications." End quote. Israel has formally allowed for the licensed production and distribution of cannabis for therapeutic purposes since 2011. The text of this study, Cannabis, Medical Marijuana, Treatment for Motor and Non-Motor Symptoms of Parkinson's Disease, appears in the journal Clinical Neuropharmacology. Out of Washington, D.C., a rise in self-reported consumption of cannabis during the years 2006 to 2010 correspond with a significant decline in Americans' use of cocaine and methamphetamine during this time period, according to a new RAND study commissioned by the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, or ONDCP, also known as the Drug Czar. The researchers estimated that Americans increased their consumption of cannabis by approximately 30% during the years 2006 to 2010. During the same time, the authors estimated the public's use of cocaine and methamphetamine declined, with Americans' use of cocaine dropping by half. Americans' consumption of heroin remained largely stable throughout the decade, the study reported. According to statistics compiled by the U.S. Substance Abuse Service and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, an estimated 4.5 million Americans have tried heroin in their lifetimes. By comparison, an estimated 12 million Americans have tried methamphetamine, 37.5 million have tried cocaine, and 111 million have consumed cannabis. The authors estimated that Americans spend approximately $1 trillion on the purchase of cocaine, heroin, marijuana, and methamphetamine between 2000 and 2010. These figures belie the notion that marijuana exposure is an alleged gateway to the use of other illicit substances, and instead suggest that for some people, cannabis may be a substitute for other so-called hard drugs, or even an exit drug. Survey data published in 2013 in the journal Addiction Research and Theory reported that among a cohort of medical marijuana consumers, 75% of subjects acknowledged that they used cannabis as a substitute for prescription drugs, alcohol, or some other illicit substance. A 2010 study published in the Harm Reduction Journal reported that cannabis-using adults enrolled in substance abuse treatment programs fared equally or better than non-users in a variety of outcome categories, including treatment completion. The text of this study, What American Users Spend on Illegal Drugs from 2000 to 2010, is available online from the Office of National Drug Control Policy at whitehouse.gov/ONDCP. Medical marijuana advocates won a big victory on Friday when the Obama administration opened the way for the University of Arizona scientists to research whether cannabis can help military veterans cope with post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. The move could lead to more studies into the potential benefits of medicinal cannabis. Scientists have for years been frustrated by the federal government's intransigence when it comes to approving marijuana research, unless the study is designed to find harms rather than benefits of cannabis. The Arizona study had long ago been approved by the Food and Drug Administration, but under federal rules, such studies can only use federally grown marijuana from the University of Mississippi, reports Evan Halper and Cindy Carmo at the Los Angeles Times. The National Institute of Drug Abuse, or NIDA, which oversees that pot farm, is hostile to any studies aimed at examining the benefits of cannabis. NIDA normally only funds studies to find its hazards. According to Susan A. Sisley, the Arizona researcher who is the clinical assistant professor of psychology at the University of Arizona's medical school, she said, quote, "This is a great day," end quote. She's been trying for 3 years to get the study approved. She continued, quote, "The merits of rigorous scientific trial have finally trumped politics. We never relented," end quote. The Oregon Health Authority on Wednesday issued draft rules to keep marijuana-infused foods and candies away from children. The rules result from passage of Oregon Senate Bill 1531, a measure which allows municipalities to ban medical marijuana dispensaries, which were finally legalized last year after years of existing in a gray area of the law. The rules are controversial and opposed by most medical cannabis patients and advocates, since they ban many sweet marijuana-infused medibles popular with patients. Dispensaries may not sell marijuana-infused products manufactured in a form that resembles cake-like products, cookies, candy, gum, or might otherwise be attractive to minors because of its shape, color, and taste, the oddly written draft rules state. These are, however, just drafts and haven't gone into effect yet. The Oregon Health Authority officials drafted the rules, which according to the agency spokesman Karen Fish will take effect next week. Dispensaries will not be able to legally sell cookies and candies after that point. Fish said the health authority is accepting public comment on the draft rules, so you can email comments to them at medmj.dispensaries@state.or.us. That's medmj.dispensaries@state.or.us. The Oregon Health Authority just a few hours ago, today and Friday, announced it had issued licenses to 8 medical marijuana dispensaries. According to Tom Burns, who oversees the dispensary program, quote, "For the first time, a legal and regulatory structure is in place to govern the operation of dispensaries. The registration process is the first to ensure safe access to medical marijuana for patients and protecting the safety of our communities," end quote. Under the law passed last year, the names and locations of the establishments is private, but the health authority offered applicants the chance to release basic information about their shop names and locations, and 7 of these 8 first licenses allowed the state to release that information. Among the establishments getting a license are Pure Green, a Northeast Portland dispensary on Sandy and a site of one of Oregon's first post-prohibition liquor stores. Other establishments getting a license include Oregon's Finest on Northwest Kearney, Green Oasis on Southeast Tacoma, both in Portland, the Relief Center in Hermiston, the Cherry City Compassion Center in Salem, Doctor's Jolly in Bend, and Emerald City Medicinal in Eugene. According to Troy Moore, the owner of Oregon's Finest, who learned of getting his license today from the Oregonian newspaper, quote, "You just made our day," end quote. The law directed the Oregon Health Authority to create a registry of medical marijuana facilities. Those facilities must follow security and testing rules, and they have to carefully track the marijuana coming in and out of their stores. The state, meanwhile, has 2 regulators who will inspect the establishments annually. The Health Authority began accepting online applications on March 3rd. Dispensary operators filled out an online component of the application, then followed up with supplemental material that had been mailed to the agency. Agency staff has spent the week reviewing and verifying the materials of the 289 outlets that applied for the licenses in the first 8 hours, said Karen Fish, the spokesman for the program. The state so far has processed 50 applications out of this almost 300 and has received since the program's launch. And officials on Friday said the state had issued 22 provisional licenses. Those establishments may not open for business until they have a security system in place that is approved by the Oregon Health Authority. 20 other applicants were denied for a variety of reasons, ranging from incomplete information to facility locations that are within 1,000 feet of a licensed dispensary or school. And that's the end of our hemp news segment tonight. How are you, John?
I'm excellent, Paul. Excuse me. Did they? When will they be notifying the lucky people?
I think right away.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Jan Sue and, as you know, Mary are out there doing some real good work here. This is a song I wrote a few years ago on account of this organization. It goes like this. Now is the time. The time is now to tell the truth, to hear the truth, to know the truth, to know the truth. Oppressive lies and fantasies isn't how it has to be. And ignorance throws stones like so many brainless clones. Sound the alarm, investigate. Sound the alarm, re-educate, re-educate. Now is the time for the truth. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. The time is now to seek the truth, to speak the truth, to be the truth. what's right. Corporations, governments are rarely ever innocent. Dissension is the only way to live to see another day. Sound the alarm, investigate. Sound the alarm, re-educate. Now is the time for the truth. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. Whoa, whoa. Sound the alarm, investigate. Sound the alarm, re-educate. Now is the time for the truth. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. Whoa, whoa. Now is the time. Whoa, whoa.
All right.
Thank you.
John, I love that song.
Thank you, Paul.
Good version there. Welcome, Casper.
Thank you
How are
very
you
much.
this week?
Very nice, thank you. And you?
Very well, very well. We have our phone lines open. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us. That number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442.
This may surprise you. I have a question, comment.
Okay.
In your opening news, you were talking about how they're trying to, they got it in draft, where we don't want the foods to look too good and too tasty for the kids, because apparently people are not capable of raising their own children to not like consume things without mommy and daddy's permission.
It was a shocking rule. You know, they're regulating these things in Colorado and in Washington and every place else that has a dispensary law. So kind of out of the blue, the Oregon Health Authority decided that they would ban these sorts of medibles. It's a draft rule. It's supposed to take effect next week on these new dispensaries that can now, you know, haven't quite opened their door. As we mentioned, 8 of them have now been notified that they are licensed and legal. And so
Well, they've determined that sugar is more addictive and bad for you than marijuana. So
that's
anything
the common
made
perception.
of sugar,
That was a news story last week.
anything made of sugar, I want it to look like dog poo and vomit. I don't want it to look like somebody might want to go up and go, ooh, let me have some of that, for fear that some child might consume it and get diabetes or go into insulin shock. Now, how do I put a draft? Even better yet,
You can write
Let's
the
outlaw-
Oregon Health Authority.
let's
Write
outlaw
them.
stupid politicians to save our children.
I like that
Is
one.
that better?
They're a lot more dangerous to us for sure.
Yeah.
But if you are against these types of rules, and especially if you're a medical marijuana patient, you should write them at medmj.dispensaries at oregon.state.us. So just go ahead and give them a letter. You know, we are taking phone calls tonight, and
thank you
somebody's
for your
standing by. No problem. Let's go ahead and take that first caller who's been standing by there. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi. If someone's trying to get off of pharmaceutical drugs using cannabis, I think it's important to keep in mind that whether it's a pharmaceutical drug or cannabis, there's certain receptor sites in the brain, and if they're using the pharmaceutical drug, most of the time there's a saturation that's already going on.
Yeah.
So that the cannabis can't really have the kind of effect that it should, and so they need to like get off as much as possible of the other, you know, to realize the benefits of the cannabis. And I suspect that the drug companies currently are probably designing their drugs around intentionally having that effect. So, you know, because and then people trying cannabis and they'll say, well, this isn't working very well. When in the truth is, I mean, it's going to work better if they just give it a chance.
Yeah. There are a separate set of receptors for the opiate drugs and the other semi-narcotics that react to the endogenous serotonin, where cannabis affects a different set of receptors that react to another endogenous neurological compound that's named anandamide. And so there are several varieties of each of those, but there's at least those two and a number of other receptor systems in the brain and spine.
What about things like benzodiazepine and also
those affect the opioid receptors.
Ativan.
Yeah.
Those two.
But cannabis receptors have been shown to be separate. In fact, I often show these antique medical containers here, and many of them say that they are useful for patients who are dependent on cocaine, opiates, chloroform, and alcohol to withdraw from alcohol. And that's one of the things that recent study we read at the top of the show talked about as well, is that cannabis can be an exit drug from these other more dangerous drugs.
But there's still the factor, isn't there, where if someone's currently using one of these pharmaceutical drugs, you're not going to have as much benefit from the cannabis unless they taper off the other. Because I guess there's a competition going on, between the two, especially if the pharmaceutical one, is already acting on some of the same things that cannabis helps with, like.
Right. Well, we're seeing a lot of people using cannabis to withdraw from these other drugs, and they're finding that very helpful. But I think that's a valid point you raised and something to be considered.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot.
All
I
right.
appreciate your time.
Thanks for your call.
Okay,
if you have
good
a
night.
call or question for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. So we had Neil Franklin on your radio show on Thursday, and he came out in support of our initiative campaigns here in Oregon. We have two initiatives in circulation right now. One is a constitutional amendment to allow people so that marijuana can be legal. It's basically just two short sentences. The other one is a regulatory bill, much like last year's ballot measure 80 here in Oregon. And so if you're interested in getting more information about those, you can go to those websites on your screen or go through our web portal at hemp.org, HEMP.org.
Well, now you may have confused people by putting it into a two-sentence statement instead of including all the legalese and the voter IDs and the ballotees, so that when people go through it, they have to scratch their heads and think about it before they go, oh.
Well, one of the sentences simply says that people can't be put in jail for marijuana anymore. But the second sentence says the state can regulate cannabis for public safety.
Nice.
So it's very short, simple, and it's pretty easy to
I
understand.
think our taxes should be done the same way.
That would be good.
3 pages. That's it. Cut and dry.
The Casper Leach tax rule.
Yep.
We have a studio audience member. In fact, if you're watching this show, you're welcome to come down here. We do a live show most Friday nights, probably about 45 out of the 52 weeks of the year, and come to our studio audience, and you can, as this gentleman is about to, ask a question. Go right ahead, John.
Paul, do you know the number of the measure or whatever it is, proposal that's floating about that is going to make it very difficult to impossible for one to utilize and or make extracts?
Sure. Well, the legislature passed this bill, Senate Bill 1531, to allow municipalities to ban dispensaries. And so the new rules regarding marijuana-infused candies and cakes are actually administrative rules. So they weren't part of that legislative bill or part of any law. It's something that just came out of the Oregon Health Authority. Under the bill that allowed dispensaries, 3640, which passed in the legislature last year, it gave the Oregon Health Authority broad discretionary powers in terms of promulgating administrative rules. Usually various state agencies create these administrative rules, and they are imposed in an orderly process where they recommend them. There are public hearings, then they take those hearings into account, and then they issue temporary rules, and then the rules go into permanent effect. In this case, this rule was issued by the Oregon Health Authority as an emergency rule, and so they have the ability to put it into effect right away, and then the hearings will come down the line. But there is that opportunity now to for public comment to be made to the Oregon Health Authority at that email address that we've given out a couple of times.
Well, was it an emergency meeting or was it an emergency joint meeting?
It wasn't anything public. They just kind of issued these rules. There was nothing
Okay.
public until the rules were actually promulgated.
Well, I'm there for every joint meeting that you want to have.
Okay, well, we'll have to roll one up here in a little bit.
All right.
We have a telephone caller. Go right ahead, telephone caller.
Yeah, my question is, as far as using marijuana for an anxiety aid, is there, because when I use it, sometimes it is helpful, and then sometimes it gives me an anxiety attack.
Sure.
So my question is there a type, what can you advise me? I mean, is there is it better to use it in a vaporizer? I haven't tried that yet. Or are there certain strains?
It has to do with the various cannabis compounds, the THC or tetrahydrocannabinol, the CBD or cannabidiol, the other cannabinoids, and the aromatic compounds, the aromatic hydrocarbons that are called terpenes. They act in unison in what's known as entourage effect. And so different varieties of cannabis have different levels of these various components. In fact, even the same varieties of cannabis can have different levels of these cannabinoids and aromatic hydrocarbons according to the way that they were raised or the time that they were harvested, because those cannabinoid and aromatic hydrocarbon levels change during various points in the flowering process. So it really is, and then it affects different people differently. So it's hard to say, but then for the matter of anxiety, that is not a qualifying condition in anywhere but California. Anxiety can only qualify for medical marijuana in the state of California currently. But it's really an individual
PTSD,
response, just the same way that statins or other pharmaceutical drugs might affect one person differently than another.
Right.
Cannabis and the various types of cannabis
And
can have the different effects.
and may I add something?
Go right ahead.
It seems like you're having an awful lot of anxiety over the anxiety that you're going to be taking the medication for. So if you got that much anxiety over what anxiety buds you're going to take, just pack one. Anyone will calm you down. And then once you've started smoking, then think about it, and you'll have less anxiety about taking marijuana for your anxiety.
That's really funny.
Well, I wish you a lot of luck
I'm
with that. I know it
about,
can.
okay, they've just allowed PTSD to be a qualifying condition now. And isn't PTSD really about anxiety?
I could just barely hear that.
I'm saying they've now allowed PTSD to be a
Sure.
qualifying condition.
Yeah.
And isn't that all about anxiety?
Well, it certainly could be. It certainly could be. You know, there are a lot of different aspects to post-traumatic stress, and so anxiety is one of those. But I think it's very useful for types of anxiety. But that doesn't mean it's in the law as one of the qualifying conditions in and of itself. Now, post-traumatic stress is now allowed in Oregon and other states, but other psychological conditions aren't.
And I had to deal with post-anxiety stress for a while too, PTSD. I was mugged in Hollywood a few years back when I lived there, and people just stood and watched it happen on the street. I had a few stitches put in my head. It was a god-awful thing. And then the next several months when I would go out my door, anybody would tap me on the shoulder, I'd almost turn around and swing and hit them. I was afraid to stand at a bus stop by myself in public. For the longest time, I didn't want to talk to strangers.
So did cannabis help you deal with that anxiety?
It did. Cannabis, and the other thing that is most magic, time.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's
Thank
that.
you, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for your call.
guys. You're great.
Appreciate that. Thanks for watching.
Mm-hmm.
We have a
Bye.
studio audience member who has a question here. Go right ahead, sir.
Hi, Paul.
Howdy.
And Casper, sorry. Just sort of comment to that last lady. If she gets anxious when she's smoking, there's something called citicoline that the people who have been using it medically, who have been using extracts and having some negative reactions to THC, have been finding that it alleviates that really well. Which brings me to what I was going to...
Where do you get citicoline from?
I believe you can get it at nutrition centers,
Okay.
at health food stores.
Okay.
But
I'm
it's
not
kind of
familiar.
fun. That leads into what I was going to ask you about is, are you familiar with the big furor that's going on in the medical cannabis world about these so-called CBD-enriched hemp oils and the multi-level marketing things that are growing up
Yeah,
around them?
I've been contacted by some of those multi-level marketers talking about CBD-rich oils and things.
I went ahead and looked into them because medical marijuana is sort of an interest, more than sort of an interest of mine.
Sure.
And among other things that are relevant for the people who maybe are considering it, is that the DEA and there who does the big busts say that any plant-derived cannabinoid is still legally considered THC. So when they say that what they're selling is legal, I wish it was. It certainly would be nice if it got tolerated, but they wouldn't be having to have CBD laws brought in if CBD was legal.
Sure.
The DEA, by way of the Controlled Substance Act, holds that if it's more than 0.3% total combined plant-derived cannabinoids, it is illegal. And what's happening is these companies are swindling people who are desperate, their loved ones are sick, they're sick, and they're saying, here's some hope for all the money in your pocket, we'll offer you this chimera that you might have a cure, and burning them. And bringing them in, what they're doing is they're committing a crime called misprision of a felony because they're luring people into being a part of a controlled substance being shipped across state lines. So if you spend time on Facebook, if a friend of yours comes to it, all you folks out there say, oh, really? Could you send me this in writing?
Sure.
And you know, please be aware of it. Don't fall for it. Thanks.
Good point. Thank you, Wolfie. I've seen that, you know, we don't test most hemp oils for CBD content, but there are a lot of those kinds of scams out on Facebook. You know, we have several Facebook pages with lots of different followers. Our largest, which is facebook.com/restorehemp, has about 365,000 followers right now. So it's targeted by a lot of these people. They put up ads in the comment section for various kinds of cannabis, for various kinds of other drugs, and we just try to delete those as quickly as possible because, you know, it's not a forum for these guys to come in and sell their wares, but we try to stop that as soon as we can. But sometimes people complain we don't do it quickly enough, but it's hard to monitor all those comments in some of those more popular sites. Anyway, we have a video we're going to run. It's about spring break, which starts today here in Oregon. And a lot of people are finding a new place to go for spring break, and that's
Really?
Colorado.
No.
Imagine
Why?
that.
What would be
Well,
there?
here's a little film clip about it. We'll be right back.
Legalized recreational pot isn't the only reason people are heading to Colorado for spring break. For Fox 12, Kent Erdahl takes a closer look at the pull of the Centennial State.
So how many people are from out of state?
The Medicine Man in northeast Denver has become a popular first stop for out-of-state visitors.
Why did we come here? To buy that.
The allure of recreational marijuana isn't the only reason why Doug Drum and his buddies decided to vacation here from Syracuse, New York. But it did help.
It's a great city, plus you have the benefit of being able to do what you should be able to do anyway.
According to numbers from Priceline.com, Denver is also more popular among college spring breakers. Denver ranks third among college students based on March hotel bookings on the website.
I don't think it's a mystery.
Mike Eimer runs Colorado Cannabis Tours, which offers limousine tours of dispensaries and other marijuana-related businesses.
March is looking pretty big. We're doing private tours 3-4 days a week, and the public tour is booking up solid. We may be offering 2 public tours on Saturdays.
Though Colorado tourism has also benefited from great ski conditions this year, Mike doesn't believe the numbers are a coincidence.
I wonder how many of those people who are booking a night here are staying that extra day to see the cannabis, see the industry, see what's happening, see this wave of the future, and then go out to the mountains and get their skiing in.
Oh, it's awesome.
That's exactly the case for Doug and his buddies.
We would never have stopped in Denver. We wouldn't have stopped here to eat. We wouldn't have stopped for anything. This place is here, so we stopped here. Now we'll eat dinner here. That's got to be good for the economy.
Colorado's new recreational marijuana tax could mean a refund for the people there. That's because Colorado law sets limits on taxes and government spending. So if the government collects more than expected, a refund could be issued.
Welcome back, Casper. That was bad timing there. But Oregon has a similar law. It's a tax kicker. Once governments raise more money than they have spent in their legislative session, a certain percentage, then they have to send that money back to the taxpayers. It's been a few years since we have had that.
I think politicians should be able to spend an unlimited amount of money on whatever they want to.
Okay, I disagree. We have a studio audience member who has a question, comment. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Back to this law here in Oregon. This newest thing about allowing jurisdictions, to put on hold until May of next year, allowing dispensaries. I would assume, but I don't know, and that's what I want you guys to clarify, that if a jurisdiction decides at this point in time they want to jump on that bandwagon and not allow it, that they don't have to wait until May of next year to then change their minds, revote, and to allow it. That they could, if they vote now, okay, so you're shaking your head.
The city council or county board can decide at any time to amend their zoning laws, whether they ban these cannabis dispensaries now or not. So it's simply a matter of citizen action. And they say all politics are local. Well, nothing gets more local than your city, county board of meetings. So yeah, you can go in there and urge them to not ban them, or if they already have banned them, to lift those bans. Certainly. Good point. Good point. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, it is the 21st of March, the first full day of spring, day after equinox, and you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. So I'm not going on any of those tours in Denver, but it looks like some college kids might.
Well, you and I have been on some of the better tours of the marijuana movement through the country, not just through a state. Paul, all the things you've been involved with and the things that you've done, people who you've met, you've toured the marijuana movement from Hawaii to Seattle to Michigan to New York to Spain. And no one can top all the buds that you've touched and the herbs.
Well, I think there are a few people who can, but thanks for the accolades.
Absolutely. So
right.
Accolades to you. You've been a true inspiration to so many people.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a studio audience member here, someone who helps on our Cannabis Club Crawl, where medical patients can hop on the bus and go visit various dispensaries. You got nice new shirts there.
Yeah, actually, I got hooked up, and plus these are also available for crawlers for $10 a piece.
That's pretty cheap for a T-shirt.
It is really
I
cheap.
go to a concert and they usually want $30 for a T-shirt.
Exactly, it's a ripoff, and these are way better. They get a better message across. So.
I agree.
Tonight, just wanted to tell you about our club crawl. We went over to Voter Power. They're over by 67th and Foster. They're not going to be there anymore. They're going to be relocating. So if you want to find out where they're going in the future, you can follow them on Facebook, and it's just Voter Power. And then we went over to Pure Green, which we were talking about them earlier. They're on the approved list.
They're one of the first businesses to get a license, and that same location was one of the first alcohol stores in the state of Oregon as well, back in the 1930s.
Yeah, exactly. And they were really excited. So
I
they
bet
wanted
they
us
were.
to help share the news with you guys as well.
I'm glad they got that license. I know all these businesses invest a fortune in their licenses, their facilities, and it's crucial once you've invested all that money that you get that license. So
exactly.
I'm sure they were very happy today.
Well, also, if future patients want to join us on our club crawl, they can visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/ all capital letters ccc.pdx.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Let's see. Is our next film clip ready? Let's go ahead and run that. We're going to talk about the first licensee up in Washington State, in Spokane.
You know,
we'll be back in just a moment.
I bet you there'll be a lot of senior citizens going to Colorado.
Maybe so. We'll be back in just a second.
Washington's first legal marijuana license went to a guy with the last name of Green.
We did it.
That's Sean Green. He runs medical marijuana dispensaries in Spokane, and he got the producer-processor license at the State Liquor Control Board meeting in Olympia this morning. The license will initially allow him to grow 21,000 square feet of cannabis. The state said it expected 2,000 applicants for licenses to grow, process, or sell pot after voters approved recreational marijuana in 2012. Meanwhile, business owners plan to hold pot classes to get people started off on the right foot. For Fox 12, Jake Wittenberg shows us how they aim to get workers up to speed on the new industry.
Same old every day. It's what we do.
When Naomi McCullough quit her job at the bakery last month, she never thought she'd be rolling joints for medical marijuana patients.
It pays the rent, pays the bills. I have a child. That's not cheap.
But it's here at the Northwest Patient Resource Center where the single mom is making a paycheck and getting inspired to spark a new career.
I'm proud to be here. It'd be awesome to be able to own my own shop.
With Washington State on the verge of issuing its first ever recreational marijuana license, others are thinking that way too. That's why her boss,
I've done it.
John Davis, a longtime businessman and dispensary owner, is leading a series of new classes. He and other professionals, called the Coalition for Cannabis Standards and Ethics, want to make sure the state is successful in this new uncharted territory. Classes begin next month, starting with marijuana policy, permitting, and processing.
I've seen a lot of the education that's out there, and really it's education being done by people that have no experience in the industry. We fought the guerrilla war, and we know what works and what doesn't.
Davis also wants to learn from early success found in Colorado, where recreational marijuana is now legal.
When we turn the system on initially, it's going to look anything except successful. And then we're going to have to come in and make some changes. But eventually, yeah, you're going to have legitimacy.
And eventually, his advice could help dreamers like McCullough who want to get in at the ground level.
Think about the gold rush. You know, how many opportunities did people pass by because they didn't believe the gold was there?
All right. Well, the industry's opening up in those two states, and we're trying to lead Oregon into that. You know, we got 47% of the vote, while they passed it with 55% in Washington and Colorado. Of course, they spent many times the amount of money we spent. They spent $7 million in Washington, $3.5 million in Colorado. Here in Oregon, we only had $500,000, but we did much better than many anticipated with 47% of the vote. But we're working on getting on the ballot right now. So if you'd like to go out there and help us, with our initiatives there, initiative number 21 and initiative number 22. You can go online and print those out, sign them, and mail them into us. You can go through those websites or through our web portal at hemp.org. That's HEMP.org. And if you want, you can come to our office there at 2712 Northeast Sandy Boulevard. Or just give us a call at 503-235-4606. That's the office number for our political organization, the Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp. That's CRRH.org as well. We have all kinds of websites out there.
I think one thing that would help our movement is if they got a different mindset. I can certainly tell you, Jack Hare used to get really annoyed that people would call his book the Bible of the marijuana movement. He said they did that because they didn't want to pay for his book. They said, Casper, have you ever gone to a church and paid for a Bible? And I've noticed that over the years, if anybody, whether it be Paul Stanford or Keith Strop or anybody get an extra $100 in their pocket, 1,300 people come out of the WordWorks and go, oh my God, you're making money off the movement. That's just so horrible, brother. You can't be making money off the movement. That's just disgusting. And they treat this thing like it's a church. If the minister gets a couple extra bucks in his pocket, they freak out.
I think people I know buy their Bibles.
Same problem with
you can get them out of a hotel room drawer, though, I guess.
With the radio show, people think that because it's a radio show or a Paul show or the other people who are doing programming, that it's free, that we just turn it on there and it's free. And if he asks you for a little donation, oh my God, we've crossed that line in sin. I've also noticed that when I call people about advertising, if I say, do you want to sponsor Time for Hemp, they're more apt to write the check. If I say, do you want to advertise on Time for Hemp, oh no, brother, we're not into it for making money. We're in it for love, but we're in it for helping people. Well, here's the deal. It's $1 trillion industry. I want to make some money, and I want to see our industry make some money. And if you want to sit around and do it for free and love, get in the back room where you belong to those of us who know how to make the bucks and turn this thing into a multi-trillion-dollar industry that can lead the way for the economy and better jobs can do it. Please make that happen.
Okay, we have a phone caller who's standing by. Welcome to the show, caller. Oh, not that line.
I guess
Is it another line?
They wanted to go smoke a joint and say about all the love and the things that they're doing for free.
Okay, well, they must have hung up. Speaking of someone whose book they call it the Bible, a friend of ours from right here in River City, from Portland, who goes by the pseudonym Jorge Cervantes, wrote a book called
name.
Marijuana Horticulture. And many people call that the Bible of cannabis cultivation, marijuana horticulture. I highly recommend it. It's a great book. And we have a little film clip from Jorge, so enjoy. It's going to talk about male plants.
You know, unless you grow from seed, you usually don't see male plants. Occasionally you see a male flower on a female plant or a hermaphrodite. Actually, they're called intersex plants. But let's look at this. We've got this very interesting male here. I'm looking at all these little, well, let's see, let's pick this down here. We've got these little male flower parts here, right here. Here's the little male stamen sac. And then we can see this one is about to open. And it splits out just like a little flower would. And because that's what it is, it's a male flower. It splits out into 4 parts. And then there's another little liner of leaves around there or petals around there. And then when it opens like that and disperses all the pollen. And that pollen just floats all over in the air and is cooler than heck, man. Because it's really minute stuff. And each one of those little pollen grains is looking for a pistil, a female pistil. Only a female pistil from the same cannabis plant. Doesn't matter the strain or variety, but a female cannabis plant is what each one of those little grains of pollen is looking for. Wow, look at that. It just falls and then it's gone out into the air, and then it falls on the leaf or paper, and you can just tap it a couple times and it's airborne. Well, this stuff, where I live in Spain, it comes all the way from Africa to Spain, to the Iberian Peninsula. And there's big clouds of it. It's on the news every day, especially in the south. A lot of times it comes as far north as France. But this stuff will travel forever, and it just penetrates just about anything. If you want to keep this male isolated, the best way to do it is keep him alone in his own room, and then anytime any going in and out should have a double entrance, and then as well have a screen so you can see in, and have water run over that screen. Keep that screen a little bit wet. That pollen hits the water and it'll get wet and die. It'll be rendered useless. So that's my little talk on this Chernobyl male.
All right. Yeah, Jorge's gone to Spain. So I remember when he first was saying he was going to go to Spain when George W. Bush was first elected. He said, I can't stay in a country that's going to elect George W. Bush. And he left and's been in Spain most of the time. But
well, I think it's amazing that pollen can travel that far and find its own strain. You know, it doesn't like mix with another
Ask any
one.
hay fever sufferer, and they can tell you how far
that is
pollen
just
can
cool.
travel.
You know, dandelions don't care.
Got a little show and tell
Roses
here.
don't care.
We'll run through very quickly here a number of cannabis products. Here's a little box of cannabis. This would have about an ounce of cannabis inside this box, and then you put it. What it says is take this, put 1 spoonful into a pint of water, and then use a spoonful of that as a dose, and it's a nerve sedative, antispasmodic, and so now this one is an interesting old product. It's from 1880. It's got a nice little top here that's not a screw top or anything. It's a nice bottle. It's extract of cannabis. It still has some of the cannabis pills in here. These are little 1 to 8 grain cannabis pills. It also says that this was sold at the Chapman Pharmacy in Roseburg, Oregon. The Chapman Pharmacy in Roseburg, Oregon. So that's a pretty local bottle. This is another one of the Lloyd specific medicine bottles. This one has a cork top. This came out for a number of years. This one's a more modern one from 1915, a cannabis extract. This one's from London, England, and Liverpool, from Britain. It comes in, you know, notice a lot of these say that they're poison. There is a belief that cannabis was poison, but it's proven that it's completely non-toxic. But, you know, all of these bottles are about 100 to 150 years old. But this one's from the 1940s, actually. Here is our hemp flame of freedom. This is pure hemp oil, like this stuff here, poured into this little shot glass, and then we put a piece of hemp twine in there. So it's hemp oil, hemp twine, hemp energy. You can pour this hemp oil right into any diesel engine and turn the key and drive, and that's why marijuana is illegal, because the petrochemical industries didn't want to compete with hemp oil, so they gave it a new name, marijuana, and prohibited it. We're still living with that legacy here today. But we are about out of time. So, Casper, you want to give a plug for your radio show?
Yes, we had Tommy Chung on today. I started the morning off with a French program. We got Spanish programs on through the week. We got new programming coming on each week, as a matter of fact. So do make it a point to check our schedule. Go to timeforhemp.com and find the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. And like any good joint, share us with your friends.
All right, very good point. I want to once again point out that we have these initiative campaigns going on right now. If you are in Oregon, please help us put these things on the ballot. You can go there and print out the petitions and mail them in to us, or you can go to our office at 2712 Northeast Sandy Boulevard and pick them up, or you can give us a call at 503-235-4606. We'll be happy to mail you some petitions and information and get involved. And of course, we always can use donations to help pay the petitioners on that petition drive. So please get involved and help us in cannabis prohibition and restore hemp. Also, if you are a loved one are looking for a doctor, we have doctors that are working all the way now from Maine to Hawaii and many points in between. If you can't find a doctor to help you or a loved one get a medical marijuana license, then we can help. You know, here in the state of Oregon, in fact, Oregon will issue a medical marijuana license to anyone who is a legal resident here in the United States. So you can actually get your Oregon permit regardless of where you live in the United States, and we'd be happy to help you do that. So if you're interested in that, give us a call at 1-800 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. So that's about it for our show. We're going to go out on another great song with Mr. John Cornett. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you, Casper. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp. Good night.
I got about 44 years of experience with cannabis.
That's a long time, brother.
That's something. I'm still alive. My friends told me to be patient. Yeah, be patient. I've been patient for a long time. I've been very patient for a long time. I've been patient for a long time. I've been patient for a long time. We've been patient for a long time.